even human?
The Nibelheim Incident is an event that happened a few years prior to the main plot of Final Fantasy VII. This event was then later recounted by Cloud to his friend. However, his memory of this incident hasn't been entirely accurate or complete. There were so many things that hadn't been explained by Cloud himself. How did Sephiroth become the villain? What pushed Tifa so far to join an eco-terrorist group? Why was Cloud's sword so big? And who is this guy? In this video, I will recount the entire incident that happened in Nibelheim, which led to the main story in Final Fantasy VII. Before we start, of course, spoilers warning ahead for plots of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. If you haven't played this previous game but want to know the truth to better understand what's going on in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, this video is for you. Now, let's begin.
A mother named Genova. She died shortly after I was born.
The last mission Sephiroth ever took on as the legendary soldier of Shinra Electric Power Company was to investigate the abnormal monster activities around Nibel Reactor and the disappearance of operatives in Nibelheim. He decided to take the only other remaining first-class soldier in Shinra with him, Zack. So Zack went ahead gathering 3 infantrymen to accompany them on the mission, and among the 3 was the rookie infantryman and Zack's friend, Cloud Strife. All of them are very excited to be able to see Sephiroth in action. With no time to waste, they set forth towards Nibelheim, eager to uncover the truth. As the group arrived in the village, Sephiroth asked one of the infantrymen, "How does it feel to be home after all this time? I have no hometown. I wouldn't know." And Zack asked, "What about your family?" Sephiroth replied that his mother's name was Genova, who had passed away shortly after his birth, but quickly realized that he didn't even know who his father was, so brushed off the matter before leading the group into the village. It's at this time they first encountered the village girl, Tifa Lockhart. She asked if they were one of the soldiers from Shinra. Zack introduced himself to Tifa by proudly announcing himself as a first-class soldier. But Tifa seems to be disappointed that the 2 of them are the only soldier that came this time, so she left without saying much further. Later that day, Zack and Sephiroth embark on their journey towards the Nibel Reactor, and it turns out that Tifa has volunteered to be their guide to lead them through the mountain. She claims to be the finest guy in the village. Accompanied by another photographer, they had a great time traveling through the mountain Nibel together. Upon reaching the Nibel Reactor, Sephiroth instructs Tifa to remain outside, citing the facility's top secret status under Shinra's ownership. He assigned the infantryman to stay behind and ensure her safety. Tifa protested, but to no avail. Zack and Sephiroth entered the reactor. They climbed up a stairs surrounded by arrays of strange-looking capsules, each connected to a giant tube. At the end of the stair, a sealed metal door. Above the door, they see a plate with the engraving reads, Genova. Zack suddenly realizes where he has heard his name and quickly looks towards the direction of Sephiroth. But Sephiroth seems to be paying more attention to the capsules, the real cause of the breakdown of the reactor. Zack looked through one of the capsule's windows. What he saw was a face that can only be described as a monster. Sephiroth recounts that average soldiers are Mako-infused humans, thus enhanced yet still human. However, the creature inside of the pod shows exponentially higher Mako energy level. So what are those things? Sephiroth realized that they are the creation of the mad scientist of Shinra, Hojo. Zack asked, if an average soldier were Mako-infused, what about Sephiroth himself? He is clearly not an average soldier. Suddenly, Sephiroth was consumed by profound anguish, grappling with the realization that he could have shared the same fate as those within the pods, a monstrous existence. This is when Genesis showed up, another first-class soldier that turned rogue. He went ahead explaining that they were all born out of the Genova project, with Sephiroth being the only and perfect monster, and others degrading over time. Due to his perfection, Sephiroth's genes were immutable, rendering his body impervious to degradation. Genesis asked for Sephiroth's cell, to help him cure his own deterioration, but Sephiroth refuses him and left the reactor alone. When Zack exited the facility, he saw monsters attacking the group, and the infantryman left behind to protect Tifa was injured. So Zack fighted through the mountain pass and brought Tifa and the infantryman back safely to the village. After a long rest, the infantryman regained consciousness, and he was none other than Zack's friend, Cloud. Zack reassured him Tifa was safe, knowing that Cloud and Tifa were childhood friends. Cloud asked Zack what happened in the reactor. Zack picked up his sword and couldn't hold his frustration. He no longer knew who the enemy was and what he was fighting for. Cloud, looking at Zack's bastard sword, remarked on how big and impressive it was. Zack remembered the words from his sword's previous owner, Angel, his friend and mentor, and remembered his dream and honor. From the memory, Zack found solace and resolved to rest. On the following day, Zack decided to look for Sephiroth. Tifa informed him he was at the Shinra Manor, the big mansion next to the village. On the way to the manor, Zack received a call from Aerith. Zack promised her he would go back and visit her after the mission, and Aerith replied that she would be waiting. After reaching the manor, Zack found Sephiroth in the underground cave, studying the notes from Professor Gust. The notes indicated Jenova was discovered in North Crater and has been called an ancient, an extinct species of human thought to have supernatural powers, and it was from then that Jenova project started. From that day, Sephiroth shut himself inside the Shinra Manor and continued to review documents like a man possessed. On the 7th day, Zack woke up to a sight from hell. The entire village was engulfed in flames. Sephiroth has gone completely insane. Zack chased Sephiroth back to the Nibel reactor, and as he entered, he found Tifa lying on the floor, injured and scared. Fueled by rage, Zack swung his bastard sword with full strength and cut the metal door in two. Inside the inner chamber, he found Sephiroth standing in front of the remains of Jenova and talking to her. With a swift and brutal motion, Sephiroth tore Genova's head from her body, revealing her form. He is prepared to take Genova's power and claim domination over humanity. Zack could no longer stand by and brandish his bastard sword against Sephiroth. However, he was quickly sent flying down to a platform beneath the reactor. It turns out below the reactor was a pool filled with Mako energy, the life stream. It was here the two soldiers engaged in an epic confrontation. Unmatched to Sephiroth's formidable power, Zack was disarmed and sent flying out of the chamber. Sephiroth went back to Jenova and reached out his hand to his mother. At this moment, Cloud arrived and picked up Zack's bastard sword, impaled Sephiroth's body, and shattered the container that held Jenova. Believing Sephiroth was defeated, Cloud rushed back to check on Tifa. However, Sephiroth was greatly wounded, but not dead. Clutching Genova's severed head as he staggered from the chamber, Zack asked Cloud to finish Sephiroth off. So Cloud attacked Sephiroth again, but he was no match to Sephiroth's inhuman power. Sephiroth peered through Cloud with his longsword, Masmune. Filled with adrenaline, rage, and expectations from his friend, Cloud summoned every ounce of his remaining strength, grabbed the sword from his body, and propelled Sephiroth into the chamber's wall, wired with intricate power conduits. Sephiroth caught on fire and fell into the Mako pool, and was consumed by the life stream. From there, both Cloud and Zack fall into coma after suffering great wounds, and the last thing they saw was the silhouette of the mad scientist of Shinra, Hojo. Now there you have it. This is what truly happened during the Nibelheim Incident, which set the main story in Final Fantasy VII in motion. Now, I hope you enjoyed the video and find it useful. Please leave a like and consider subscribing for more content gaming. This is Xin, thanks for watching and see you next time.